Then there's, speaking of Dow names, Boeing moving lower in the pre-market after the company posted a wider than expected loss, though revenue did exceed consensus. Let's get to Phil LeBeau, who was with Kelly Ortberg this morning. Morning, Phil.
Good morning, Carl. Kelly, thanks for joining us today. I think the most interesting question that people have is going to be the question of this charge of $4.9 billion when it comes to the 777X. And it's a little more than I think some analysts expected, but it also raises the question of entry into service officially now moved out to 27. What's the main issue there?
Yeah, Phil, first of all, the airplane's performing very well. There's no new issues with the engines or with the airframe, so that's good news. Ironically, this airplane has more hours on it than we would typically have in the flight test, so it's very mature. The issue we're having is in the certification process, getting the type inspection authorities to allow us to fly and get certification credit. We've fallen behind this summer as we've been anticipating those authorizations, and we had to step back and take a look at our go-forward plan and come up with a higher confidence plan, and that's what we did, and that drove the charge.
Have you essentially kicked this out to 27 to say, look, that's what we think right now, but there's potential for this could happen in 26. And if it does, that's gravy, if we can move faster than what we anticipate at this point.
Well, we're certainly going to continue to do everything we can to try to pull the schedule and improve upon the schedule, but recognize that this isn't a process totally in our control. So we're working with the FAA. They've got a lot of work to do as well. So I think what we wanted to do was make sure this isn't a quarterly thing for us. We've got an EAC now that we can stay within, and we're confident that we'll get this airplane into the marketplace.
You mentioned the FAA. How much is that an issue in terms of there's a government shutdown going on right now, and yes, you're still working with the FAA, but let's be clear here. Not everything is moving as it usually does with the government. How much is the government shutdown impacting certification work, whether it be with the 777X or with the Dash 7 and Dash 10 MAX models?
Well, the certification office is back to work. So, I think that there will be, depending on how long this goes, there may be some minor impact, but clearly the government shutdown did not drive this charge. This is something that was driven by our inability to get through the certification process as fast as we anticipated.
Kelly, I know that Jim has a question for you. Let's see if we can. Jim, go ahead. Kelly's here if you want to ask him a question.
Phil. Kelly, it's just such a breath of fresh air to have you at Boeing and see what you're doing. I felt that at the Laguna conference in Morgan Stanley, you laid out that there might be a 777 problem. I don't know why everyone's so darn surprised. But I want to talk about your chief revenue officer. Because what do you pay him? I'm talking about President Trump.
We don't pay him
how
anything.
many orders did he get for you?
Well, Jim, our backlog has increased 22% since the beginning of the year, and we have over 5,900 commercial airplanes now in backlog, and there's more coming. So clearly the administration and the president are doing a great job of helping us book orders in the market, and there's strong demand for our products.
Well, but a little facetious there, but I've gotten to know you, and I think that it's been remarkable what you've been able to accomplish. But in truth, isn't it one of those things where if a country has got a deficit with us, it's a really solid thing to just say, you know what, I'm going to give Boeing some giant orders, because that order book is so much more important than this insignificant, to some degree, fall behind 6-month delay in the 777 that everyone's focused on.
Yeah, Jim, look, our backlog, again, we've got $600 billion of backlog. So our focus right now is in delivering airplanes, ramping up production, making sure those are high-quality airplanes. We're getting great feedback from our customers. We delivered more airplanes by August of this year than we did all of last year. This was a really good quarter for us, and we're going to stay focused on what we need to do to ramp up production and deliver on this really, really healthy backlog.